times because there were times when I just can't do this anymore. And we would work our way back together again. And people would ask me, why do you keep taking her back? Why do you guys keep getting back together? Maybe they ask her the same thing about me. I don't know. Um, but the reason I did was because if you could experience those 4 or 5 days before the switch got flipped, you would know what great was. And then we got back because in my mind, I knew the person that was committing this egregious behavior, this person that was suffering from what they were suffering from, it wasn't them. And I just kept hoping that they could get help for that. Because if they could have got help for that, I couldn't have asked for a better partner. The problem was people need to, again, another Dr. Philism, you need to, you can't fix what you don't acknowledge. If you want to dig your feet in the ground and tell everybody else that they're wrong, if you want to tell that audience of 400 people that they're wrong and you're right, well, at some point you've got to be able to point the thumb at yourself and say, look, I want to get help. Another Dr. Philism is, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? We have a bunch of right fighters out there in every walk of life. It's important for people to convince others that they're right. It really doesn't matter who's right or wrong, and this is one of the things I'm trying to teach my kids. But like I said, guys, the thing that struck me about this article, and again, I hope I can get it linked up. I have a friend of mine, Adam, that's been so hugely helpful. Thank you, Adam, for handling the Facebook page for me. I really am a tech idiot, and I basically just send him this Facebook page, or I'll send him an article and say, can you post this or pictures? And he does everything for me, which will be greatly helpful once I'm out there walking. So I'm hoping I can get this article posted. So, guys, all I ask you to do is this. Before you pass a comment on somebody else's actions, and there are actions that, are egregious, just pause for a moment and realize that a lot of these people are coming not from a sane mind, not from a sane place, okay? They're coming from a state of anxiety, fear, pain, depression, whatever it might be. And that's why they do what they do. And the reason I'm trying to be so long-winded with this here, or I'm willing to be so long-winded with this here, is it might not be you. It might not be you, but it might be somebody that you love. It might be somebody close to you. It might be somebody you work with. Sometimes these folks need help. They need to understand what they're doing and saying isn't rational. I mean, why does a kid go into a school and shoot up a school, right? It's not a rational mindset. They're in pain for whatever reason, whether they've been bullied or whatever the case is. But anyway, I've talked long enough about that. You guys get the point. But don't be so quick to judge and condemn folks. Try to see signs in people that you know and that you love and that you care about, and try to reach out for the help for them or convince them to get some help before these things take place. All right, it's great that you have a great life and your mind is in a perfect working mode and so forth, but not everybody's is. As I said, I consider myself a pretty sane guy, a pretty logical guy, and yet I could tell you at least 2, if not 3 times in my lifetime that I have serious questions of myself as to, what significance do I have? What impact am I having, if anything? And really, who's going to miss me if I'm gone? It was really easy to say before my children. Now I have the answer. I know the answer to that question. And, friends that know me and love me and say, oh, you're crazy. Why would you say that? Everybody, likes you or loves you or whatever. But it's not the case. And in that moment, you certainly don't see it that way. So it's not being selfish. You're not trying to hurt other people. You're not trying to call attention to yourself. You just want the pain to go away. So thanks for listening about that. On a positive note, I do have a good story that I read this morning as well I want to share with you guys. So the Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl this past year, which was fun for me because I grew up a diehard Raider fan until the late 80s, early 90s when the owner ran my favorite player out of town, and I kind of disavowed the team. I hadn't really had a favorite team for a long time, and I always said, I'll wait till my kids have a favorite team and we'll jump on the bandwagon just so I can enjoy and root and cheer with them. Well, 2 years ago, the Eagles became my family's favorite team. My daughter really took to the Eagles. My son took to them. So this year was fun to watch the Super Bowl, and I remember when my teams won and how much fun it was. So going back to the Philadelphia Eagles, the story goes something like this. There was a woman who was an executive assistant and to one of the coaches or the offensive coordinator. I'm not sure I have the story exactly correct, but anyway, one of her functions was to type up part of the playbook, and her section that she typed up was kind of the special plays, the trick plays. And it was an ongoing joke that the team would set up their game plan for the week and they would hand it to her, and her favorite play was the flea flicker. So if you know what that is in sports, the flea flicker was her favorite play. And she would routinely go to the coaches and say, "You're going to call it this week?" Or if it wasn't in the game plan, "Where's the flea flicker?" And this went on as a running joke for them for years. Well, several years ago, when there was a new coaching change and change in general managership there, they released this woman. She was an executive assistant. They said her position wasn't needed any longer, and they let her go. So earlier this year, I guess one of the coaches that she worked with was Doug Peterson. He was not the head coach back then, but he came back to the Eagles as a head coach back now, and he's the coach that won the championship. And I guess they had exchanged phone numbers over the years, and so she had wished him luck before the game and texted him something about the flea flicker, and he responded that, "Hey, it's in the playbook this week. Now I just have to call it." Well, in the championship game against Minnesota, where the Eagles weren't even favored to win, they called the flea flicker, believe it or not, and it went for a big long touchdown, and it was kind of neat that it took place. The Eagles went on to win 38-7, and there was some text communication back and forth between the coach and this woman about how they called the play. I think her name was Carol. And they called the play, and it worked. So she felt like she was a little bit part of the team, even though it was the same team that let her go. Well, a few weeks ago, maybe not even a few weeks ago, maybe this past week, she was at, I guess, her new job or home and got an email from the Eagles team basically asking her for her ring size. And she sent the email back saying, "Hey, I think you got the wrong person. I don't think this was intended for me." And they said, "No, it was intended for you. They want your ring size." So the Philadelphia Eagles, this woman hasn't worked for them for several years, actually gave her and supported her with but gave her as a thank you a Super Bowl championship ring, which is pretty amazing. We hear so many things in sports with athletes and coaches, and there's we hear about money and holdouts, and we hear about when they're human and have a DUI, or they're human and they do something that they commit some sin that every other human does. We always hear about that front and center in the news. And these athletes do amazing things behind the scenes, donating time, money, energy to causes and things like that, and we rarely see that. So I just think it's an amazing thing. I kind of want to share with my kids, because I think this is the stuff that I'm hoping to find out on my journey. I'm hoping to find these people that want to accentuate the positive, that want to thank people for their time and what they've done and things like that. So, if you can, give a shout out to the Eagles, hit the Facebook page or something, and just tell them job well done. And maybe things like that will be catchy, not only in in the world, but the sports world, the regular world, everything. It's just kind of a really, really great story, I think. So anyway, guys, thanks for listening. I hope this doesn't come off as some kind of sermon. I'm not trying to preach to anybody. Again, my goal with this whole journey is to offer different perspectives to folks, different mindsets, different ways of thinking about things, and maybe you'll see yourself as that person that has a pretty good life and a pretty good situation and can, cast judgment on others. But if you do, pause for a moment. Maybe you don't think that way, but try to understand their mindset. All right, and even if you're not that person, okay, and you don't judge others, if you see somebody that's suffering, if you see somebody that is in pain, don't condemn them and hear what I've heard time and again. Oh, you just have to get over it. Or you just have to do this. All right? People don't have to do anything. What people need is someone to reach out to them and say, "Hey, you know what? I can see you're hurting a little bit. Have you thought about this? Or have you thought about that? Is there something I can do to help?" Again, point the thumb at yourself. Don't point the finger at them and tell them that they're crazy, they need to change. Point the thumb and try to understand a little bit about what's in their mindset and what they're going through. I'm going to be walking 3,000 miles. I'm going to be walking, by my estimation, between 7 to 9 hours a day, depending upon how many times I stop to talk to folks. And the one thing that happens when I do that is I found out in my training, you just have a world of thoughts run through your mind. So I wanted to get this out there. Thanks for listening, guys. I love you guys so much. Kira, Grace, Lannon, you guys are my world. Thanks for everything, guys. Take care.